Okay, I'm watching a video on YouTube and I'm trying to document what I'm doing with my hair. Now, I had already trimmed. This is the length that is going to be in the back, and I've just cleaned that line up. Let's see. And I hold it over my shoulder. See how I have it over my shoulder? Some people pull it forward, some people hold it back. And if you hold it forward, you're going to get a V in the back. And if you hold it back, you're going to get a lob cut where it's longer on the sides. And I had a lob cut that I gave myself using, I'm just going to come through, get a little better feeling for, now I've done this for years. I just did it by intuition and hold it right over my shoulder, but your head needs to be turned. See, if your head's pulled to one side, I never used to pay attention, and sometimes it would take me a while to get what I was going for because I wasn't paying attention to all the variables. So cutting hair is just like anything else. You have the variables, and when you change one variable, you get a different outcome. And so I like studying hairdressers. Now, did I do that exactly the same way on the other side? I don't know, but I'm going to take a picture of the very back, and I'm also going to comb it straight back. Now see, there's a long piece. Now, that's that V he talked about getting, and I don't want there to be okay. Now, I don't like that I'm cutting a lot of length off, though, so I'm going to just take that very center piece. And he did talk about overcorrecting to this side. So, see, I want it to just go around my shoulders, and I've got it somewhat of a little bit of a V going on back here, but the other side is pretty straight across, so I'm just gonna take off some of that. You see that guide? That's the other side, I believe. And I have been having like a lot of hair in the center back. I mean, sorry, like a cutout. And I don't like that. But now I'm kind of having the opposite thing going on. The back is the absolute hardest to get right on yourself. And, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. So, but this is the base of the hair. This is your what they call your base, your perimeter. I'm sorry, perimeter. And it's real important to get the perimeter right. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video there and move on to some other segments. Okay, never mind. I'm going to take out, because I realize I haven't finished. On this side, I've already cut that whole back section. And this, I'm having to do mine because my hair is rather thick. I'm having to do mine in sections, even though on his video, and I think it's I forget the guy's name. I'm doing it in 3 sections because I lose track of my guide because of how thick my hair is. And that may be too much hair. I think I'm going to have to pull some back up. Now, before I started the video, I had sectioned off my hair and done it exactly how he recommends in the 4 quadrants. He didn't call it quadrants. That's just how I'm thinking he just basically divided, the 4 sections. And he started with the back and getting the perimeter the length that you want it before he goes into this is going to be a layered haircut. Now what I've been doing is I'm not pulling it all the way forward because I don't want an exaggerated V. So if my head is forward, so basically I'm kind of holding it. I am turning my head to the other side and pulling it on a plane that is mimicking me standing behind myself and cutting my hair. Does that make sense? I just kind of go for the front of the shoulder. Okay, I can see this guide right here. Do you see that hair behind there? I've taken off quite a bit. Okay, and I'm just going to keep pulling more hair down. And this is, like I said, it's the perimeter. And the key is don't pull down more hair than you can see through. Okay, and this will be, this is the third section. And this is all just coming, forming the perimeter of my hair. And it may have to have some touch-ups because it is very different when you cut one side of your hair. You use the different, I'm right-handed. I don't switch and cut the hair with my left hand. So, you have to kind of learn. Now, see that guide right there? That's where I had a lot of hair that would swing forward, and I got tired of that. It just doesn't work for me. Okay, so now I'm going to come down with the rest of it. I just figured I might as well document it because over the years I could never remember how I cut my hair the last time. And this is a professional vet on YouTube that has shared his method for people to cut their hair at home. And of course, a lot of people do not approve. But before you criticize someone who's cutting their own hair at home, really it's a good idea to find out the circumstances, because I'm at a place in my life where I cannot put my head, like I can't go to a salon and get a wash and blowout, because my neck, prevents that. I get in all kinds of trouble. I can get dizzy from it. There's even cardiovascular episodes that can happen from people getting their hair, hair wash. And the last time I was able to do that, it's been at least 5 years. And I do miss it. I do miss being able to go to the salon and get my hair washed. But it's physically impossible for me to do that now. Now, I'm not sure if I can really see through this latest. So I'm going to have to pull up a section. I've got to get it thin enough so that I can see what I'm cutting. And again, I just have super thick hair. I just can't, it's going to be 5 sections that I'm having to cut it. And mind you, he cut the mannequins in one section. So I'm having to slow down this whole method that he uses and bring down my hair in 5 sections. Part of the reason I have so much hair back here is that it grows way down my neck. Most people's hair does not grow way down their neck like that. That's just another EDS phenomenon. Okay, so still not sure I can see. And I want to swing it a little bit more towards my shoulder. Like I said, I don't want so much weight. Now, I had kind of cut that. Don't want to get these 2 sections together. I don't know. Maybe I was able to It just seems, oh, I know why there's not as much hair to cut on this upper section. It's because I had, um, it's because I had, kind of layered my hair a little bit. So that top layer is already shorter. It's already shorter than the perimeter. Okay, so that explains that. Okay, so now I just have one more section. And there may not be anything to cut here because, and that's probably why he was able to. I think the mannequin he was cutting on, the hair was already kind of layered. And he was just cutting another layer cut, you know. So, yeah. So there's not a whole lot to cut off this top layer because I sort of had a long layer already. I'm just going to, this will all end up being cut, so it's really not essential that I get that perfect because I'm going to layer my hair today. So that's just getting the perimeter. It's really not important, that upper layer, except I've just been known to be kind of a perfectionist. You know, I have a whole lot more hair over here than I do over here. I didn't realize that. Most people do. Now, I'm just going to comb this back. I did take a picture of this in the back with my camera, like upside down. Okay, I'm getting some pieces I need to. Okay, so, and you know, they say we have trouble with proprioception. Proprioception. Proprioception just means your brain knows where all your body parts are. And I don't mean just where your leg and your arm is. I'm talking about where everything is. So I did pretty much the same thing. And again, this is all going to be layered, so it's not that huge a deal. And sometimes that little hair that goes all the way to the base of the neckline can be pretty wonky and have a mind of its own. Okay, so now I'm going to catch up on the video and then come back and add to this video. Okay, I went and watched, and I still can't remember his name. Now, the other day, I don't think I videoed it, but I did give myself some bangs, and they're very long, although when they dry, they shrink up a good 2 inches. So I've already sprayed my hair because it's super dry. I did the whole wet plop thing and put gel I forgot I was going to cut my hair today. And I've been planning it. I've been watching lots of videos. And yes, I do have a rather exactly shoulder length hair, which is not great for putting up on a bun. But I have decided that I really, really, really want my hair layered again. And so I'm willing to give up a few months. It'll probably just be a couple months where I can't put my hair up. And I know it's not even cold enough yet. So I'll figure out something. The reason this looks so much longer is because, like I said, I cut the lob cut, which you use a big rubber band in the back, and you basically cut your hair into the back, and that makes the front sections much longer than the back sections. And I wanted it. I did it on purpose. Used to, like I said, I would just do it intuitively, and I usually liked what I did, but I didn't know how to replicate it. I didn't follow a method, so it was just intuition. I basically felt like I was sculpting my hair, and that's what I was doing. But then later, if I wanted to duplicate it or replicate it in some similar fashion, I was never really, well, I will take that back. I did get to where I could kind of replicate it, but it was always very nerve-wracking because it was risky. I never was certain how things were going to turn out, but they always turned out well. And except for the time that I finally went shorter than I really wanted. And of course, you can't tack hair back on. But my mother-in-law told me that was her favorite haircut I ever had. So go figure. Okay. Now, I feel a long piece. Now, where he's at in this is this mannequin that he's cutting the hair has real wispy hair, and it's below her shoulders. So I'm going shorter with my cut because I didn't have the length to work with. And I don't care. I don't want real long hair anymore. It's just not what I want right now. And so I've been cutting it kind of like I did in college, only I'm not nearly as short as I got in college. Okay, so what I've got to do here is take my shortest, and I kind of wish my shortest was down to my chin. And if I had it over again, I would have done it down to my chin, but I didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what he says, and that's take these other sections and bring them forward and cut into this length right here. So if you sweep it, if you comb it forward, remember how if you comb it into that length, these parts are going to be longer just because you're overcorrecting the other direction. So let me get my comb in here and get all this. Okay. This is the forward section. Before I started video, and I took this forward section down like he did. So I'm just going to do this a little at a time, and I need to get my finer tooth. Okay, so I'm going to pull it forward and cut into, and you know, I like to point cut. He's not doing that, but I'm going to. It just really helps shape the hair, okay? So I'm going to have, this helps to blend that hair so that it's not just, I don't know, doesn't have a shape to it. You know, I had two very differing lengths, and I knew I wanted to blend it, but I just hadn't done it yet. So now this longer part is my guide. So I got to be careful that I don't keep, you know, trying to keep it real short. I don't want a bunch of short hair in front. I want it to blend. So I'm going to point, cut, and the angle that I'm going in is, I probably need to pay attention to that, is kind of vertical. Okay, so now this part back here, there's quite a difference there, see? And the mannequin didn't have a lob cut, so I'm going to have to even this out over here because it's just, it shouldn't be this, it shouldn't be this long right here. This is part of the perimeter. It's not really part of the face framing section, so I'm not going to blend that up into it. Well, I probably should because he takes that whole part. But let's see what we've got here. We should have like a when it gets back here though. Okay, so you have a lot less hair right in here, so you really want to keep some of the perimeter because you have so much less hair over your ear than you do behind your ear. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Still have to blend that in. It can't be two separate lengths. And I'm just coming straight down with it because I don't want it forward or backward, okay? I'm just going to make that part of the perimeter. Should I? Or should I make it come forward? I don't know. Let's see what will happen if I make it come forward, because I mean, it's going to shorten it, and I just need it shortened. So, and he does talk about coming in. So, I mean, I've got some length to play with. See, still I'm not matching up. But pulling it forward helps it keep matching up with the front fringe. Now, I'm just going to take these two parts . Still got okay, now let's see if we finally got them somewhat in the same family. Still got a little chunk there that needs to be cleaned up. Because, boy, it's so much shorter back here, isn't it? I think I'm just going to adopt that in the back. I don't know. Should I? I'm not really sure how much it matters. I did know this is the bulk of where my hair was going to come off, is over here beside my ear, because I had it so overcorrected to make that lob cut, you know. I'm not going to have that anymore. So I really want to maintain some perimeter here. I don't find that I like things to go way back into here at an angle. So I'm going to come forward with this right here and just blend it. Okay, so I went vertical. You need to always keep in mind your angles and get the hair out of your face so you can see. And I'm going to point cut. This is not what he's doing. And he may be planning to point cut later, but for me, I just might as well do it now. Okay, it's still kind of looking like a lob cut. So at this point, I'm just going to go. Let's see. And of course, my hair is curly, so he's getting like straight hair, and I know that doesn't really translate that well, but I'm just going for the main, you know, the main overall shape. Okay. Okay, the trouble is I can't see. And I'm having I have contacts in, and they're for distance. So right now I'm I'm blind. I am truly blind cutting because, whoops, I just tried to cut my finger. Okay, so now I'm just being a little bit perfectionistic. Okay, you see how we've got that transition in that. This will flow a whole lot better I think it will, and especially once I get to the rest of it. Okay, so now it's time. I think I'm going to do this side off camera just because this will get boring if I have way too much going on. Now, this is the bulk of my hair, so this side really can't be cut as much as the other side because there's a whole lot more hair on this side than there is on here. He just said go where it naturally parted, and today this is where it parted. And that's good because I used to part my hair over here a lot, and it was starting to look pretty. In just a few days, I trained it to change. Okay, I'm going to save some space on my phone. Okay, I'm back, and I'm taking this other side because he didn't really even explain it, but he just said, you know, do the same thing over here, cut into this area and frame your face. So what I'm going to do, though, because this is much less hair, and he doesn't address that, but this is real life, and we always have, when your hair is not parted down the center, you're going to have less hair on the other side. So here's my guide. There's that piece from the middle, kind of. And I'm going to overcorrect this way because I don't want to take a whole lot out for this side, or I will end up with something really wonky. So I want to have more hair left on this side. So I'm overcorrecting this way. Now, here's my guide, and I'm going to point, I'm just going to point cut down, 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 down. I can always take more off later, but I can't come back and tape this back on. And I have from experience learned that there is less hair over here, so you don't take nearly as much off. I mean, I have a ton less hair over here. So the only thing I need to do now is to kind of blend this. I've already cut this side. And I need to not only blend it to the front, I also need to blend it to the side. So see, that's the only part right there. And you want to keep the perimeter of this less, this has much less hair. So you want to keep your perimeter. You don't want to cut into that. You want to keep it. You can always come back and take more out, but you can't put it back on. So what I'm going to do is just try to see through. And this is not a, and this is dry hair. So remember, dry hair shrinks. So we really have challenging hair, don't we? Well, I do. You may not. Okay. Curly girls. And, you know, if you can go to a salon where you live and find someone who can cut curly hair, oh, wow, you are so lucky, because that's another thing. Besides not being able to wash my hair at the stylist at the salon, hardly anyone knows what to do with curly hair. I mean, it's just pathetic. Okay, I know instinctively that I have quite a bit of length to get rid of here, so I thought, okay, I'll just blend a little bit more of that. Be sure to get all your hair from behind your ear. This is the time a lot of people, when you go get your hair cut, they don't get all that hair because they can't feel it. Okay, so see how we pulled this forward? And again, point cutting. And again, okay, see, we've got lots and lots and lots and lots of length to remove, so I'm just gonna and you don't cut the two sides exactly alike, because I said, see how much more hair I have over here? And how little hair I'm going to probably end up, especially when it comes to layering. There's hardly anything to layer over here versus the other side. Okay. Which means, since I'm cutting this with it kind of more hair on this side, I'm going to have to wear it that way. But I need to. I've been wearing it the other way for so long, and it's really I've had a lot of breakage up in here. So, okay, so I'm just going to keep my perimeter right here. I can always go back later after the cut is done and change things. But right now, I need to tie these two sections. The part that's already been cut in the back and the part that hasn't been cut. Okay, and I am going to point cut it though. I wish I could have point cut the back, but I just can't. Okay, and I'm just gonna come straight down with it and look under here and point cut. Okay, so get that really strange length separation out of there. Okay, still gonna, now I'm gonna overcorrect and do some more point cutting. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this squareness. Okay, now I really won't know until it's dry, and again, you can always kind of come and do some, see how much more perimeter I have over here than over here. It's really easy to cut too much when you don't have a lot of hair, so just be mindful of that. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm cutting into the mirror because it's just easier to see that way, into the camera, I mean. Okay, just do not want to have that big length separation. Still need to get rid of some length. This is all still pretty long, so, you know, just like I said, just take it easy. Watch the shape that you're creating. You're going to have to keep wetting it down because, you know, shrunken hair looks a different shape than the wet hair does. You should begin to see like a similar, like a upside down U shape. Okay, and I'm just going to go one more time and look at this and see if there's any really long pieces, and there's a few. Still a little point there that I want to get rid of. And I'm going to stop there because I probably need to do the same on the other side. And I'm going to tell you, I've never found anybody that will go through as meticulously as this. Usually when they're cutting my hair, they're just kind of talking and they're not really... I know it gets to be old hat, but the thing about curly hair is you just really can't treat it like that. You have to really pay attention to what you're doing. And then when it's dry, you kind of have to go in again and look at things. You see, as it's drying. I'm just going for some stray hair that's just still, you know, 3 inches longer than everything else. As I'm pulling this back, and just see, now, I've got to see how pretty close, you know, there's no real big discrepancy back there, so I don't really need to do anything. Most of that unevenness is due to hairs drying at different speeds. So, and you know, there was nothing sticking out like that. Okay, so I'm going to go back now and watch the next phase. You can see it's pretty even. It feels pretty even. And if I get done and it's not, then I'll go back and correct it. But it looks, if anything, this side may be it. But I'm not going to know until it shrinks. And you really don't know what it's going to shrink like. So that's why it takes two phases for curly hair. All right, I'll stop. Okay, I'm back. Okay, he had me segment my head, and he's not talking to me. He's just on a YouTube video. Okay, so sectioned off this to the front and this to the front. I've already cut these parts. But now it's time to make a guide. And basically, I'm just going to be using this top back portion. And so the rest of it, I'm going to put into some clips. I'll just divide it into two for now. It's probably going to have to be divided into three, but right now I'm just going to clip it, trying to keep this thing from getting to be 2 hours long. But you see all that hair I have that grows down the back of my neck. It's always, first of all, it makes you hot, and secondly, it's an extra chore to cut it. So basically this back section, I don't want to mix it in with the front section, but it looks like I've already done that. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm making a guide. And I will say he's just a little bit more involved than I ever got with mine. Like I said, I just kind of sculpted, and I just created a tangle back here. Thankfully, some of that's going to be cut off. Okay, so I'm just basically getting that top of the crown of the head, basically, and I actually did this intuitively. I remember making myself a guide, pulling up that part, because I used to roll my hair, so I was always sectioning my hair off like this. So he says, and this is smart, and this is something I did learn from him and other people that I've watched, because like we didn't have YouTube back in my day. Okay, so you take the shortest part of your bangs and you compare, and you don't want this to be a huge difference, okay? But you do want this back to be longer. So I'm probably going to take off, and you got to realize my hair was not layered much at all. It was just beveled, really. So I'm going to take off probably 2 to 3 inches. And again, this will be my guide that everything else in the back is going to line up to. And see, I need to go up just 1 inch or 2. So I think I will start off with it right where right there. And that's a lot of hair. I know it's a lot of hair, but again, it was all one length pretty much. Okay, let me just see. See, it's still much longer, and if you overcorrect, this is really how you should do it, is kind of overcorrect. Oops, I've seen other teachers say to kind of overcorrect it like that, and that's what you'll take off. But I think it's probably even a little shorter than that, so I'm going to go somewhere in the middle, because you can always cut more off. How many times have I said that? I am going to go just a tad longer, on the longer side. Just because, see, if I pull that forward, it's going to be longer layers this way. But I find that longer layers are fine. You just have to have layers for curly hair, and I can always take more off later. So I'm just going to start off with like 2 to 3 inches. And he says don't point cut at this point. Eventually I will point cut, but not right now. Okay, and I'm so glad to be getting, and this you want straight, because this is your guide. Okay, I'm going to be using that a lot. Okay, so this This is tiring. It is. See what I mean about exercise? I mean, there's plenty of opportunity for exercise throughout our day, especially when you can't get anyone to cut your hair right. Okay, so now all this other hair that's pinned up in the back, see? I'm going to be taking it down a little at a time, and I'm going to put this in a, because sometimes it's hard to find your hair once you've sectioned it off and cut it, and then you want to go back to that same section. It's hard to get to. Okay, so I'm going to start over here. I generally do, for some reason, work left to right. Now, I'm not going to worry about the bottom half because I want a strong perimeter. So I'm going to take at the level of my ear, and that, because that's a nice little easy landmark, to pinch that top half. I'm not going to be layering this, okay? Sometimes people have undercut that section for me. And you see how thick this is? I'm going to have to divide it into two. So I'm going to have 4 sections. He says 1 or 2 or 3. And literally, I'm going to have 4 again because, okay. And I'm going to take the center part. Just leave that down. And I'm going to come up and I'm going to comb this up and mix it. I'm going to mix the two and use that as my guide. Okay, use the big, I hope I can still see. You see what I mean? I get so much hair and it's hard to see the guide. Oh, come on now. Where is the guide? Where did that piece come from? That must be from the front. I don't know. Okay, I see. It's naturally not going to have as much to cut off because yeah, it's not going to have as much to cut off because, you know, it's further down the hair. But you want to go straight up. And I may not have very much hair to cut off there. Where's my scissors? Here they are. So, okay, now, I've still got this section from this side of my behind the ear section that hasn't been cut. So I'm going to drop that in the back. This is the scary part. You've got to remember where your guide is. So I'm going to grab this little piece. That should be my guide. Come up here and cut that. And I'm going to cut it straight, not point cut this part, just so I can keep track of it, okay? And now, got those 2 sections. And just take from above the ear all the way. And that's the part, the only part that needs to be layered. The rest is the perimeter. And you don't want to mess with your perimeter. You want to have a strong perimeter. And you're just going straight up to the ceiling. So look at there. Okay. Now you could point clip, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to follow his instruction when getting the back sections. Okay. And I'm going to tie this off so I don't lose track of what's in front of the ear. Okay. So, whoops. Okay, there. Okay, so now Again, I go above the ear, and I'm just going to take a quarter section there. And I should probably work from the middle to the outside. So I will. Now remember, here's my guide. I'm going to go ahead and lift that up, pull it forward, and I'm going to go in the down to my thumb. You may not see what I'm doing, but I've gone from my ear to there, and then I'm sectioning off that midsection of hair, okay? And I will use my guide, which I've flipped it up there. Okay, now, am I going to be able to see it is the question. First I have to get this hair out of the way. So my guide, hopefully it will start. It's not a lot. Once you get down the back of the head, it's not a lot of layer. It's not a lot, you see, because it's growing down the hair, down the scalp. Okay, okay, so now I'm coming back over here, and I'm going to grab what's left of that quarter portion in the crown area above the occipital. Okay, my hair is relatively half dry. Okay, so going all the way up, and I do have a little bit more to cut off there than I did on the other part. Okay, so that section should be complete. Okay, and I'm not done, but it's just, this is how it's done in stages. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that sectioned off, and I'm going to go ahead and section this back off again and see if I've got everything that's supposed to be layered back there. But first I have to get these sections out of the way. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and turn around. This will help me too, not just anybody who might be brave enough to, or foolish enough. Okay, I'm going to come in, just gather up all of this that's in this section. You see how I'm going above the ear, okay, and I'm combing that up, just going through and making sure that I actually did get all of the sections. I mean, there's no big stray piece sticking out somewhere. So just come straight up and look at there. Use a little bit finer comb. So yeah, there's a little piece right there. Gonna cut that off. Okay, so there, I've got that part finished, and I can't remember what to do next. So, because again, I'm following this stylist, and I may not follow it again, but I'm doing it this time. Okay. Okay, this section is time to pull this down, and hey, I have waves. That may be a way to roll my hair in the future. Okay, so I've already got this whole back section finished. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull a tiny bit of my guide up, okay, And then I'm going to take just a section from the very top, like he calls it the mohawk section. Okay. And I'm going to, and I have to put this behind my ear so I can see. Okay, so I'm then going to cut that using the back guide. Okay. I don't want that yet. Okay, so this is going to be my guide for the front pieces, and I can definitely see. You see that line there? That is where I want to cut. Okay, so I can even turn it because I'm not moving any of the hair around. And now I have my front guide. You see how I just copied my back guide onto the front, okay? And I'm just going to keep doing that all the way across the top and making myself a guide. Now, I did this, I taught myself this years ago because I watched the hairdressers, and then I was like, okay, I can do that. You want to go straight up. So see, that was a little bit missing out there. Okay, now come and get a little bit more. So you can, oh, I've got that behind my ear. And again, you're just creating a guide all the way across the top of your hair. Okay, and I seem to be kind of losing volume right at the top. If I could take the hair that's on my neckline and put it on top, I hardly added anything there, did I? Okay. Okay, so you want to try to keep onto that guide as close as possible. Okay, straight across, and keep moving forward. And let's see. Now, you don't want to take anything off the front, so you got to be real careful with this. I actually think that the front is shorter, so. Okay, so now I hope that doesn't, again, I overcorrect towards the front because I don't want to make my bangs too short, but you see how this is working. There's this piece, and I'm going to kind of come in, and I like to have even lines here. And again, if you don't want to cut your bangs short, you overcorrect, because I don't want to cut them too short. I've already cut them as long as I want them, so at this point, I'm going to overcorrect to the front. Okay. Now, what am I cutting? Okay, I don't want to cut the length of the, so I'm letting some of that hair drop down because I do not want to cut the length. Okay, now that's some of that from here that I want to kind of leave in. So I'm not going to cut that, okay? Remember, this is an asymmetrical cut. I will eventually get to that, but I'm not so concerned with everything being even Steven, as he calls it. As, you know, if I cut that piece up here, it's not going to be up there. It's going to be down here. And I'm still not sure, you know, again, everything doesn't have to be even Steven up here necessarily. You want to think about where that hair is going to fall. And you might need a little bit more hair down there. So again, I think I've learned these things the hard way. And I'm not a mannequin. So, okay. So it's already looking better, isn't it? Wow, I'm almost there. Okay, so I've got my guide. Now I have to go back and see what else to do. Okay, I just had to watch that other section about 3 times to kind of digest it. And the reason is this is a part of the haircut that I had never known about. Okay, in my watching of my hairdresser all those years, and when I started just cutting my hair many years ago in college, and again, the reason I started is because she moved away and I didn't have anyone else that I trusted. Okay, so he's talking about the corners. Now that we've already done the front section, just the very top, and I've got to work out my arms. So I've pinned all that back up because now I'm working with the corners, he calls them. And, you know, all I did was pull all this hair straight up. And so it isn't layered very much. It's just the very top is layered. So, but we're going to kind of work in the corners. And this may be why I've end up sometimes having to go back and chop, not really knowing what I was doing. But knowing that I was having to sculpt it. I used to call it sculpting. Well, we're going to go to not the back of the hair, but the corner. So I would call this probably, if a pie shape, I would call this little quarter, I would call that the corner. So he says, take that corner and pull it up. And, you know, he wasn't real precise about this, but you're going to take the corners and you're going to pull it straight out from the head. Now you see it's not straight up to the ceiling, it's straight out from the head. So you see that line right there? We're going to be going perpendicular to that. And you're going to cut off that extra right there because we're wanting to and make sure the line, since I'm not standing back there, it can be a little difficult to kind of keep track of. So you go perpendicular. And you see how that's the round, he says where the head rounds out. So I don't want to take too much because we're going to keep following the shape of the head. So right here, we're just doing the corners. And he says you got to get this right or you ruin your hair. So that's why I watched it 3 times. So I'm going straight out. Okay. And now that's the corner. So you want to go straight up from that position and cut. Okay, and I'm not going to snip that because as we go down, we're going to keep adding more hair and we're going to follow the shape of the head. Okay, so see, that's now a little bit different. And there's my guide. And I'm pulling straight out from the head. Okay, and I just keep going down. But you don't cut any off the perimeter. So, oh boy, I'm in the fine. You don't want to comb with the fine tooth if you have a tangle. Okay, so we're still going straight out from the side of the head. So see, there's just a little bit, and you come all the way to that guide. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm not paying attention to what's getting on the camera. Okay, let's push that over into the stack of hair. Now, I've still got a little bit more to go down here behind the ear. I want to get all this corner of the head. And like I said, he didn't really talk about how far back to go. I'm just trying to keep it on the corners. Okay, now, got to see this line. Got to be able to see where the hair attaches to the scalp. And don't want to get too much. Okay, go straight out. See how that's going straight out? And let's see. It is a lot easier if you could stand outside your body. I'm just going to try to finish this up and get all that hair in the corners. Oh, that's just going to fall down because that's the perimeter. You don't want to fool with the perimeter. That's too short. Okay, so get this corner piece and pull straight out, okay? So we're following this line. So straight out, perpendicular to the lower part of where the head. Oh, okay, I'm really getting tired. Okay, I understand what he's teaching, and I'm going to get a whole lot better, I believe a whole lot better now that I understand about the corners. I didn't ever know about that, probably because she was to the back side of me. And I don't know if he's going to... I feel like... Wow, it's really hard to see. And I've lost... I don't want to mess up my corners. Okay, I don't want to keep on there. Okay, now to do the other side. Undo this part. And again, I don't know really. I'm just guessing at how to go into these corners. But I'm just... Okay, and you start at the top. I do know that. You start at the top and you come and you work down the shape of your head. So this is kind of stopping me. So I've already done it straight up. So now I want to come and follow the curvature of my head and come out like that. Is that perpendicular or parallel, really? You want a perpendicular. Your hair needs to create like a perpendicular line. And the cutting line is parallel to the shape, the slope of your head. Okay, so, alrighty, so gonna come up, trying to just stick to the corners and come straight off the shape of the head. Okay, I don't want to get too... I hope I'm not taking too much off there because it's really hard. He's right. That is very challenging to do the corners because you're having to maintain a certain angle. And it's funny, I used to memorize some of my cuts where as far as you can pull your hair out, that's where you cut it. This is a terrible angle for me to be videoing. I can't believe I've got my mirror, but I have to have it up high so I can follow. Okay, so let me see. I've kind of lost track of where I am. I got the corners done, and now I'm going to move forward from the corners to this whole section. So I go pull some of this and just keep following that all the way forward. Okay, so I got the corners. Now I'm gonna come off at that angle. And he says, you know, really get your fingers all the way to the end of that hair. Now keep coming down and pulling more hair in and following the slope of the hair and go straight out from the place the hair grows. Okay, and that's a lot of hair to try to keep up with. Yep. I probably have never done such a precise cut on myself. Although I used to pride myself in being really precise, so I just didn't have a method. I didn't have a like a B C D. This is what you do. I just kind of, like I said, it was intuitive. Probably I did this many years ago. Haven't really done something like this in a long time. Okay, so keep coming down, and the difference in the very back is the very back of the head you just pull straight up, and in this on the sides you do a whole different slope. You come straight out from the place that the hair grows. You come straight out from the scalp. That is the name of that place. I think I've been doing this too long. I'm just tired. And then I'm blind on top of that. So if I look in the mirror, it gives me an advantage because my husband understands this optic stuff. He taught me that it's double length to the mirror. Your eye factors in like twice the length to the mirror. I know it doesn't make any sense, does it? But that's how optics works with the eye. Okay, and the eye is the very best camera of all, so. Okay, so let's just take off that little section and try to get, I need a bigger mirror, that's for sure. Trying to just quit grabbing in hair that doesn't belong. So I'm coming straight out from where this hair and gotta use a mirror so it's not too close for me to see. Okay, so now let's see. I'm not real sure. This part up here, I guess we still have to do the same thing with it, but it's scary because those are my bangs too. He doesn't really talk about how to, I'm just going to leave well enough alone. And just, okay, come up. Make sure I haven't left any of this hair out. Oh, I got to get rid of some of this corner. Just want to get this forward growing narrow piece of landscape. Take the bangs out of it. I don't want to cut any more bangs off. Okay, now let's look at the angle that we're coming off the scalp. It helps when you have you can see your scalp. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm trying to hold too much up at one time. That doesn't help. So going straight out from the way it grows. It's really nothing to cut there. I must have already cut that, huh? There's just a tiny bit. Okay, so now come all the way down. And this is going to come, more angled down because we're coming down the side of our head. So, my goodness. Okay. And just pull it straight out. Still. Oh boy. Okay. Straight out. Okay. Man, I'm perspiring. That mannequin did not have all the hair that I have, and half of it gray. Okay, let's see. The angle. Again, you know, this is just being perfectionistic at this point. But I'm sure that it does play a role in how good the hair works. So, okay, now I see there is something going on here. I don't know that I've pulled up some hair from the back. You don't want to have too much hair in your palms of your gritty little hands when you go to trim. So I'm going to get some of this back out of there. Okay, I want to stick to this section and come straight out. Okay, is that straight enough? Okay, I think he was a little bit too perfectionistic myself. Okay. I mean, because I used to think about physics-wise what I was doing, and if I wanted to take out a certain, if my hair was too thick in certain spots and too weighted down, I would judge, you know, how I took it off, and then I would be consistent throughout the haircut. But the one thing I didn't remember was, and I never knew about, were the corners. Never knew about that. Okay, so I'm going to be done there. I'm going to call myself done and then pull down this other side. And wait a minute. Have I done the corners over here? I don't remember. I don't think I've done the corners. So I want to leave this put up until I get the corner guide done. Okay, that's the most important. According to him, that's like a really, really important part of the haircut are the corners. So I'm going to repeat over here. He is funny because he's like kind of starts off like, you know, I know some people really need to cut their hair. It's probably last year, you know, during the pandemic. And then he kind of goes from that mood to now, if you don't get this exactly right, you're going to be sorry. Oh, boy. Okay, so that corner really comes down, sliding down the slope really quick. And it's kind of hard to keep your focus on exactly what needs to come off. Especially when you pull your fingers too far down. Okay, so now as it comes down, just want to get rid of that part. You just need a guide. You don't need. Okay. There you go. Okay. Now, bring part of that guide down. That's the key, not getting too much hair in your greedy little hands. and then as the hair, at one point that whew, so need to pull it a little further. And if you pull it too far, then you can't get a straight line. And if you don't pull it far enough. Okay, there you go. So I think that's the corner. And then I will just work that into the, and you don't want to take any off of the perimeter, but my perimeter is so thick till I really do. A lot of times I'll come back in and bevel it because it just sticks out like a broom otherwise. Okay, so now pull this down and do the same thing. Start with the top, cut into that guide, use that same guide. Okay, and just start at the top. Okay, and I hope I can still see my guide. Yep. Boy, that's taking quite a bit off now. I hope I don't regret this, because this is that side that doesn't have a lot of hair, you know. But I want to come down and make that. Don't want it to be too short through here. Okay, still using this as the guide, coming and going straight off the slope of the scalp. I'm getting really tired and hungry. How is it that we can come up with more distractions, more projects that we lose track of time? This literally is as long. Okay, I can't see this. I cannot see through my hair. Okay, because I want to come straight off the scalp. I do not want to and come all the way to that edge. Okay. Now, okay, so that much has been done. So I'm gonna come up to this thinner part, and this is where I may have some extra that I didn't cut. See how that's thinned out from breakage? It's all those ponytails, and this is what I want to get away from. I want to get away from the ponytails. I want to pull this back this direction. And you know, something is not, I don't know, something's not lining up here. I don't know. I'm afraid to take off too much. You know, he has it all lining up together, but I have so many times in the past cut off way too much off this side of my head, or whichever side I was parting my hair on, the lean side. And I mean, this is the leanest side. It's the leanest it's been. Okay, so down we go. And okay. Alrighty, so now let's see. I think this is where he goes and checks out the cut. So let me go refresh my memory. Okay, I'm done. And the last thing that you do is you just go through your hair. You pull up the top rectangle across the top of your head. And my hair is pretty much almost dry by now, so I have to use the wider tooth comb. And you come up, and this, like I said, it's a horrible angle. And you just check the ends. And I can't even get them in the picture. Okay, scooty back. So you just take that section and you comb it straight up, and you just look at what you've got here. And again, I don't want to cut everything as short as my bangs, so I'm going to overcorrect here. And you see there's just like one little bitty section, and it's kind of hard to tell how far back that is. That is so close that I really hate to bother it, because like I don't want to cut any of my bangs off. And, you know, that comes from that little triangle. So sometimes I think we can get too worried about perfection. Since that's part of my bang, I'm going to leave it alone, okay? I'm not so worried about geometric perfection and endpoints. Those are guides, okay? So the section for my bangs is this triangle right here. And if that means, I don't want to cut anything out of that because I want it to grow about an inch longer so that when it's dry, it's down to my mouth. Right now, it's to my nose. I want it to my mouth, okay? But it's really hard to tell when you don't remember how much your hair is going to shrink, okay? So to check, I'm satisfied with the top. To check, you just go through and you take sections to see if you've left out any part of your head of hair. Okay, you can. Now remember, this is all supposed to be pretty much flat across the top. Okay, there we go. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Okay, I don't want to monkey with something that close, you know, because remember I was following guides. So I've learned from experience, you just leave well enough alone. Okay, so this is going to go towards the corner. Remember how that was kind of, and this is the hardest part. Again, you got to follow that at the curve of your head. So you don't want to you just want to be looking for anything that's way out there, okay? Because this has all been cut according to a guide that was out from the scalp. So, you know, what I used to do probably without thinking is I would go back through and check, and I would see something looking, and then I might cut it in a place that I didn't want cut. So it is nice to have a formula that you're following. So when you go back to check, you're not keeping on cutting chunks out, which although I will say, I was never unhappy with really any cut other than the time that I actually just felt like I cut too much off. I cut it short. I liked the cut, but, you know, I said, okay, I can't be cutting shorter haircuts every time. Okay, so again, I'm satisfied with that. I mean, you got to realize that's grabbing all that hair and you're pulling it out. When you go to check at the end, you're just checking for anything wild. Because remember, I took off about that much off to layer my hair. I took off a couple of inches. At least, maybe 3 in some places. But the weight of my hair was just dragging it down so bad that I had to do something. Now, you can probably tell why I want this to be a little longer because, you know, when you have curly hair, you have to have enough for it to form those springy coil curls, and then they have to lay, and that will change as this hair gets washed and dried again and everything springs up. It should help the curl pattern just for me having taken off a lot of this weight. But I checked it before I actually got back on here and I was just demonstrating. I feel like I don't mean to brag, but that's better than I get at a salon. It is. It's always been that way. Because I think, you know, if they were with a whole lot of hair like this and curly, it just takes too long to go through. Even though it takes longer to do on yourself, it still just kind of takes too long. If you find somebody you really love, hang on to them with both hands. Because when they move away, it's really, really hard to find somebody to replace them. And I will say this. I think it's easier to find someone if your hair is already in a decent style. If you walk in with long hair to your hips, which is what I have been doing in the last few years until I whacked it, it was down to my hips last winter. Okay, and over time, I cut it off 3 inches at a time. And I don't plan to go shorter than this because I want to be able to put it in a ponytail, and I still can, hallelujah. But I will now try to style this, but I'll probably have to wet it down first. And I'll try doing it his way. I did used to blow dry my hair forward, and that's what he recommended. And I have put a link on my Savvy Style and Beauty page for this whole haircut, and I think it's the Salon Guy. And so thank you, Salon Guy. I enjoyed watching your specific how-to video. I felt like it was well done. Thank you.